Editor's note. In the process of editing this classic work by the venerable author, it became evident that when he referred to scripture, it would often be from memory rather than an exact biblical quotation. Additionally, many of the verses he cited are paraphrased in order to add obvious weight to his illustrations and remarks. I have decided to leave the scripture as it appears in the original manuscript, whether cited from memory or paraphrased, rather than correcting it to exact quotations from scripture passages. It is my feeling that, as much as is possible, I want to reprint the book that Solomon Stoddard wrote, and to represent his flow of thinking and flavour in writing. Reverend Don Kistler, Editor. Preface. It is thought proper to give a short account of the following treatise and its author, neither being much known in Britain. Mr. Stoddard was pastor about 60 years of a church at Northampton, New England, where he died, 1729, in the 86th year of his age. His sermons were searching and experimental, yet rational and argumentative, and often peculiarly suited for awakening the secure, directing in the great work of salvation, and assisting the doubtful in judging their spiritual state. Thrice in the course of his ministry there were remarkable seasons of general religious concern and numerous conversions among his people. It is no wonder that one so diligent and successful in the work of the Lord was highly esteemed and beloved by a church, most of whose members had been brought up under his ministry. Though his station was in a remote corner of New England, his strength of genius, depth of judgment, acuteness in reasoning, and knowledge of divinity was so uncommon that in difficult cases his advice was much sought and valued, and his influence great through the whole of that country. By his distinguished talents and high reputation, he proselytized many to an opinion opposite to the general sentiments at that time, and as his grandson, President Edwards, has shown, opposite also to Scripture, that some who suspect or know themselves to be unconverted may, notwithstanding, lawfully partake of the Lord's Supper. Dr. Increase Mather and others who justly disapproved and opposed that notion with a laudable candour and impartiality admired and recommended his practical writings. His most valuable work, The Safety of Appearing in the Righteousness of Christ, thrice in a short time printed at Boston, was never till now published in Britain. It examines not learned, critical or philosophical objections against the doctrine of imputed righteousness, but in a plain and practical strain opens the grounds and encouragements of faith, resolves the doubts of a jealous and unbelieving heart, and unfolds the subtle working of a self-righteous spirit. In these views, it is the best treatise I know on the subject, though those will think otherwise who relish the beauties of language and composition more than they regard the importance and justness of the sentiments. I agree with some of my worthy brethren of different denominations that there are inaccurate expressions, especially chapter 5 and 7, as to faith being the condition of the covenant and our evangelical righteousness. But because the sun has dark spots, shall I despise its light? Shall I refuse interest in instruction because a teacher only knows in part and prophesies in part? I will not make a man an offender for a word, though I may dislike the word and wish he had not used it. The general tendency of the book is to show that our claim to the pardon of sin and acceptance with God is not founded on anything wrought in us or acted by us, but only on the righteousness of Christ. The author, therefore, does not mean those ambiguous expressions in the dangerous sense in which some have used them, and the book contains a salutary antidote against the poison which these expressions have sometimes conveyed. If it is asked why I did not alter or expunge these obnoxious expressions, I reply because I had no right to do it, and such freedoms with dead authors appear to me presumptuous and unjust. May the divine blessing render this treatise as useful in Scotland as it has been in America. May the thoughtless be brought to a serious inquiry, wherewith shall I appear before the Lord, and present myself before the Most High God? And may the true answer to this question be received as a faithful saying, and worthy of all acceptation. John Erskine, Edinburgh, June 11th, 1792.